It's been 4 months since I last picked up the camera to record a video here on YouTube, and in that time I got the opportunity to really slow things down and look inwards and figure out, what do I really want this channel to be? What do I want to achieve? Revisit some of my original goals and beliefs, and also take the time to acquire a bit more kind of knowledge from the perspective of reading a number of books and applying those books into my day-to-day life. Because really and truly, acquiring knowledge is just potential power. The actual power comes from taking action, applying the information that you've acquired and embedding it into your own daily routines, habits, and way of showing up for yourself. And during that time, I also worked with a few clients and saw the progress that they managed to achieve during our working together. And that also instilled in me the realization of how far I have come in the past 3 years. So when I pivoted my career 3 years ago, I chose to take some time out of the corporate world to really heal the wounds that I knew I was carrying from my childhood. I hadn't appreciated how embedded and automatic they were within my subconscious, and they were really running the show. And when I came to realize that and started to unpeel and release and let go, and in some instances dissolve what I thought as the problems, when in actual fact they were the solutions, I had habits of behavior that were actually, they kept me alive while I was growing up and when I was early on in my career, that helped me get me recognized and achieve the success that I did. But at the same time, they also kept me trapped because I kept on repeating those patterns. But just like anyone that's addicted to either drugs, alcohol, or food, that initial hit that you get of the pleasure dopamine starts to evaporate really, really fast. So then you need more and more. So where I was looking for the external validation, the success, the accomplishments that I was achieving, both in my professional and personal relationships, eventually I had to provide that for myself. I couldn't constantly seek that externally. I needed to look inwards. And what I did in the past 3 years, those of you that haven't watched any of my content and don't know my story, hi, I'm Tanya, and I was originally a qualified accountant working on large transformational projects towards the tail end of my career within the financial services. And my second burnout was the time where I realized it was now or never. Either I was to look inwards and do the inner work, or I was just going to keep repeating this pattern until the next burnout could end up leading to more physical symptoms, and the quality of my life would start deteriorating really, really fast. And I knew I didn't want that. So I took the opportunity 3 years ago, when I finished my last contract, to start doing that inner work. Initially, I did a hypnotherapy course, followed by a coaching course, and then a clinical hypnotherapy course. Then I launched my business 2 years ago, and I have been working with a few clients. And during that interaction, I have learned so much from them, as much as learning more about myself. Now, my heritage has got Greek in it, so my dad's Greek, and I did 12 years of schooling in Greece. One of the key takeaways that I took from the Greek philosophers that I studied while I was at school was know thyself was one of the key fundamental principles, and that is the gift of understanding ourselves, not just the people around us so we can have more meaningful relationships and interactions, but also to understand what triggers us, what motivates us, what makes us do the things that we do. And a lot of that is ingrained subconsciously within our psyche. It's behaviours that we learned through childhood and then early adulthood that kept us alive and surviving and gaining the praise and significance that we so much crave, because we want to feel that we matter, that we are worthy, and that we deserve the good things in life. And if that isn't what our reality is, then usually we start blaming circumstances or people around us rather than looking inwards. Now, in my late 20s, I went to my first personal development course with Jack Black called Mind Store for Life. And he used that kind of, if you point the finger, you're pointing one up to source, God, whatever you believe, one to the person that you're blaming, and then 3 fingers are pointing back at you. So look inwards, do the inner work. Now, I hadn't really fully grasped that, and even though I used a lot of the techniques from that course and then from a number of courses afterwards, I focused them predominantly on my career. And yes, I had great amount of success in my career. I progressed, I left jobs that didn't feel fulfilling, and I pursued new jobs. And whether it was through promotions or sideways kind of movements, I gained the kind of recognition that I was craving. I wanted to be recognized for being a loyal, hardworking employee, and I got that. But then I also realized that I was just a cog in the machine. I was just another employee that they could backfill with someone else if I stopped being as productive or stopped being as compliant. And after a while, I realized, yes, I'm not going to be working until the day that I'm going to take my final breath, if that is what life has got in the cards for me. Then from that kind of perspective, I wanted to retire. So I ventured into contracting and went self-employed, and I did that for like 6 years. Did the pressure alleviate? No. Was the pay much better? Absolutely. And that gave me the financial freedom to take the time and do the retraining that I've done to gain the fulfillment that I want, in order for me to apply the lessons that I have learned. Because when you get to the age of 50, you have experienced a lot of tough days. You have experienced a lot of ups and downs. You've had a lot of relationships and interactions with people. You have faced different situations and circumstances, and you have gained a level of wisdom through it all. Now, for me, getting to know myself was foundational in order for me to forgive myself for doing the best that I could do under the circumstances, rather than regretting or criticizing and being unkind to old versions of me that were only aware of what they were aware of. And this notion of every day we get to show up for ourselves. Every day is a school day. Just because you finished high school or whatever your educational system was, it doesn't mean that you stop learning. But for me, I had gained that kind of misconstrued belief that the learning was for your career. It wasn't from a personal perspective. And even though I had done personal development courses, I was still predominantly applying it to my professional life. In my personal life, I didn't have any healthy boundaries, and as a result, I was seeking to people please. I overgave to the extent that it was detrimental to myself at times. There's some financial decisions that I've made with friends, colleagues, and with family members that at times I then resented having made, but I was being so self-critical to myself. So I could genuinely say that by the age of 50, I really disliked myself. So 2 years ago, when I set up this channel, my initial desire was to get comfortable being in front of the camera, to share the knowledge and the tools and the techniques that I had gained through my transformation journey, through my retraining to become a hypnotherapist and a coach. And I wanted to share that with people because there was a part of me that, even though there was a disconnect in my belief, so part of me believed that none of us are broken and needing fixing, and part of me felt that we're all working around and being unaware, on autopilot, just rushing from one thing to the next thing, always busy, always stressed. And that is just part of life. And then when you get older, you start experiencing some physical symptoms because you've had that sustained chronic period of decades where you have been constantly in survival mode. And when you slow down, you start realizing that time is genuinely a human construct. When you slow down, it's counterintuitive, but when you slow down, that's when you really realize that your reality, your external material possessions, your interactions, your quality of life is all a mirror reflection of what's going on inside. And when you are living from a place of trying to please other people, trying to feel worthy by what you've accomplished and achieved in your goals and outcomes, then you're constantly striving. There's constantly this sense of scarcity, of lack, of harshness, rather than the gentleness and the compassion and the kindness, the peace and the inner realization that we do not need to achieve things. We do not need to have material possessions to actually survive, to feel good about ourselves, to genuinely like and even love ourselves. And when we start from that place of stripping everything back to its core and realize what are our core fundamental values, what do we value higher than anything else? Is it freedom? Is it financial independence? Is it love and relationship and impact? Is it fulfillment? Is it joy? Is it trying to run away from your past and into a future that is uncertain for all of us? Or enjoy the present moment, be present here and now, and in doing so, you get to experience the fullness of the life experience, and that at times will be uncomfortable. There'll be discomfort. There might even be some pain and suffering, but you get to choose if you stay there. You get to choose something different. We've all got the power within us to heal ourselves, to figure out what beliefs, what patterns are no longer serving us, and to change things. Change can happen only when you are willing to change, when you want to change, and when you are willing to make change happen, because you're going to have to take some action. And whether that action is to delve deep, question yourself, seek some assistance if you're not capable of doing it on your own, or you need some support to guide you on the way to figure this out. Because the amount of reading that I have actually done in the past 3 years is the equivalent to what I wouldn't even say equivalent. I would actually say it's 3 times more than what I did when I did my degree in maths and accounting studies many moons ago. And then when I even did my professional accountancy exams, I could actually lump those 7 years. And I have done much more reading and research in the past 3 years, but it's been more enjoyable because it's aligning with my values. It's enabling me to understand myself at a deeper level. And what I want this channel is to document my transformation journey. If people choose to watch and even take one thing away from each video, then all power to you. And if no one watches, then future me will get to watch in due course and can see the progress that I've actually made. Where before I was driven by the ego, where I wanted to feel valuable, that I was contributing, that I was adding immense value to people's lives. But in actual fact, what I was doing, I was preaching. I was trying to teach to people that were maybe not aware or willing or wanting to change. So I appreciate YouTube can be a distraction, it can be entertainment, it can be educational. And for me, it's an opportunity to capture the changes that I am experiencing firsthand. Now, am I going to keep posting every single week? Am I going to go back to the kind of previous formats that I've done, where I've done a week's challenge, or I've done 30-day challenges, or I've done like 3 posts per week? I don't know. As Peter Crone says, the one thing we can know with certainty is that we don't know what the next moment's going to bring, let alone tomorrow's going to bring. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm not going to get stuck in this repetitive loop of analysis, of planning, of then judging, comparing. I'm just going to go with the flow. And in the past 4 months, that's what I've enjoyed. The freedom to read all the books that I wanted to read, to delve deep into topics that felt a bit scary to approach because there is such an intense emotion attached to them. Dealing with shame, dealing with vulnerability, understanding what bravery really is, and having the self-respect towards myself to revisit my thoughts, to revisit my beliefs, to revisit my goals and aspirations, and to document the changes. So in the past 4 months, the biggest lesson for me has been to go with the flow, to challenge my thinking in the present moment. And that has involved a lot of journaling, a lot of questioning, a lot of discussion with peers, people that I've done my training with, friends that have been on this path of self-development and self-discovery, of watching content that has enabled me to question myself even more, but from a place of kindness, from a place of curiosity, of attempting to understand, what do I really want? Where can I add value? I know, and I've known for a long time, that I can help and assist people to transform their life, whether it was through the large transformation programs that I was involved in, or the one-to-one therapy and coaching sessions that I've been having with people. Or I can do it through mentoring others, or just through the conversations that I have on a day-to-day basis. And the most important thing is being open and transparent and being vulnerable and sharing the progress that we're making. We don't need to have it all figured out. This is the joy of the human experience, that we get to show up for ourselves every single day, and we can choose what the day is going to unfold for us. If you're stuck in a job that you are not enjoying, that is not fulfilling, that is barely covering the bills, then take the opportunity to figure out what would bring you joy, what would bring you fulfillment, and take it on as a hobby. Do it as a side hustle. Do it and do the things that are going to bring you joy, that make the 9 to 5 bearable, that make it less stressful, that make it less of a grind. Years ago, I used to listen to a lot of heavy metal music, and one of the reasons for that was because all the resentment and the anger that I was feeling internally and I couldn't express, that music enabled me to headbang and to probably scream, attempt to sing at the top of my lungs, in order to be able to articulate, to voice what I was experiencing. And one of the bands that I followed early on was Skid Row, and one of their songs was Slave to the Grind. And at the age of 17, when I was listening to that song, I hadn't quite appreciated, because that was when I got my first job, where I was working at the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 8 hours. So I was doing 16 hours a week as well as going to school during the week. I was actively working 7 days a week, 5 days at school, 2 days at work. And that was the journey. That was the beginning of my career. And that was me becoming a slave to the grind. I was doing everything to get I was doing it for the money, to pay for the bills, to help support me and help me survive through life. But my main motivation was because I wanted to add value. I wanted to feel worthy and to feel that I was loyal and I was getting appreciated. And that's what kept me in that kind of grind and the hustle for decades. And I've got to admit that in the past 3 years, having done the retraining and the pivot in my career, when I add up the hours of work that I have done compared to the hours of work that I was doing in my last corporate job, I have done a lot more work in the past 3 years than what I did in the previous 3 years. But the level of fulfillment, the level of joy, the level of peace and alignment that has come through doing that healing work has been I cannot advocate for it strongly enough. But that was my journey. That is what I wanted. I was always curious and interested as to why do humans behave the way they do? But I never went and studied psychology, even though I had a fascination. I went and did maths and accountancy, and then I qualified as an accountant, and I followed the money because my pattern and my belief was that there isn't enough, and I need to work really hard to survive and to have that kind of safety, that protection that the money and the financial abundance would actually create for me. Did it bring me happiness? At moments, yes, because the money enabled me to travel, to have luxury holidays, to experience things in life that some people never get to experience. Fly, go on a boat, drive in rental cars in different parts of the world, go on road trips, experience the richness that life has to offer. But do you have to do all of that in order to experience all the ups and downs that life has to offer? Absolutely not. And this is the beauty, that we all get to carve our own journey, what our own reality looks like. And it all comes down to the fact that if you sort of ask the fundamental question, how do I feel right now? And if the answer is, I feel peaceful, I feel calm, I feel happy, I feel content, I feel joyful, fantastic, more to you. If the answer though is that I don't know what I'm feeling numb, I'm feeling unhappy, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling angry, resentful, whatever those other emotions may actually be, then lean in and ask the question, why am I feeling that? Is it my reality, is my circumstances not reflecting what I want, what I aspire for? Or is it that the people that I'm surrounded with are making me feel less than what I deserve to feel and be? Or is it the inner dialogue? Because mental health is something that we all experience. Not all of us are aware of it, and not all of us are willing to do the, at times, uncomfortable work to delve deep and figure it out. But the way that I sort of in my head, the way that it works is that doing the inner work is going to create a bit of discomfort. It's like taking a sticky plaster off a wound. Until you do that, the wound can't heal, because when you've got it covered up, it's just festering, and then the next time you hit your hand and the wound reopens, then it becomes more and more painful. And that's what I had been doing. I had been putting sticky plasters on all my wounds, and until I decided to start ripping the plasters off and doing the inner work to heal the wound, then and only then I came to the realization that I didn't like myself, that I was doing everything for external approval and validation instead of showing up for myself, meeting my own needs, taking care of myself, and in so doing, filling my cup, feeling joy, happiness, and contentment. And then that ripples out. So then my interactions with the people around me become more intentional, become more kind and more compassionate, because we're all doing the best that we can. And some days we'll do better than other days, but as long as we're always learning and growing, that is the whole point of it all. So, long story short, the past 4 months have been so eye-opening for me, that rather than this channel being somewhere where I want to educate and add immense value and get you to seek therapy and support and all those good things, that isn't what my mission is. My mission is to document my journey. What am I doing? How am I showing up for myself? The things that are bringing joy and contentment in me. And in the past 4 months, I've created, well, not since the beginning of this year, I've introduced new daily morning routines, new evening before bed routines that have increased my energy levels, have increased my level of contentment, and at the same time realizing that I don't have to impact your life to be worthy of enjoying my life. However, if my journey is anything to cause an inspiration or to show you that there is another way, that you don't have to navigate all of this on your own, then I'm an advocate for that too. So I've rambled enough. Thank you if you're still watching. I really appreciate you sticking around. I hope there was something that resonated, and if you've got any questions or you want to know anything more, please just drop it in the comments if you feel inclined to do so, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!